Hello and welcome to Facts Schmacks. It's the podcast good enough to get you a C.
Minus.
My name's Matt and I've got a story to tell.
My name's Kev. I have a story to interrupt.
Kevin,
Matthew.
let me tell you, technology lately has gotten so good. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at you.
It's like you're right in front of me.
It is. It's like you're right there.
Uncanny.
It is uncanny.
I've never noticed how much of a wandering eye you had.
So we are recording this in person. It's the first episode that we've recorded in person since we did the Demon Core episode way back in...
Did we do that one in person?
Yeah. Yeah, it was the SL1 was the other nuclear accident one we did over remote, but the Demon Core was the one we did in person.
Okay.
Yeah, I know this.
Yeah, what do you know?
What do I know?
Well, we've proven time and again that my memory amounts to nothing.
Well, to celebrate this auspicious occasion. I almost said vacation, and that vacation, and that threw me for a loop. Do you have some fact schmacks for me?
Matt, I do. I'm prepared. I took notes.
Oh.
I brought them with me.
Oh,
I have it opened even to the notes.
What?
And queued right up. So, without much further ado, let's do some fact schmacks.
shall
Matt,
we?
I know you're not a big movie guy,
No, I'm not.
so I think I'm going to get you on this one.
Okay.
We've got some classic kind of movie bloopers, I guess, or things that were put in movies that made the final cut that shouldn't have made the final cut.
Okay. All right.
So you're familiar with one of the most infamous ones of all, and this isn't a fact schmack, this is a fact. The Teen Wolf basketball scene.
Yes.
Where the guy on the bleachers at the end when he wins the basketball game and they show the bleachers, there's a guy with his penis out.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's infamous.
That is. That's why I said dong as soon as you said Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't pick that one because everybody knows about that. And if you don't know about it, go look it up. So fact or schmacked, Matt.
Yes.
In Braveheart, during one of the battle scenes, an extra is knocked to the ground and his kilt comes up, revealing a pair of Umbro soccer shorts. Remember Umbro soccer shorts from the 90s?
I do. That's
They
not
were
even something
everywhere.
that's hard to say 10 times fast.
I
That's-
know. I know. It's just who I am.
Yep.
Fact or schmacked. In Quantum of Solace, an extra is seen behind Daniel Craig's Bond sweeping, but he's not sweeping the ground. He's sweeping the air.
I've seen the gif of that one.
Oh, God damn it. Okay. And in Gladiator, this is a bit of a callback to our Commodus episode. During the chariot battle, a chariot flips over and clearly visible is a compressed gas cylinder.
Okay, so I know it's a 50-50 here.
Mm-hmm.
We got Braveheart, Umbro shorts, and the chariot compressed gas cylinder. Why would there okay, so there'd be a compressed gas cylinder there because if they're flipping the cart over, maybe that's the easiest way to do that. TikTok, yes. The timer that we always have going. We've never mentioned it before, but there is a timer on these. There's never been a reason to mention it because I'm always so punctual with my answers. Umbro shorts, you say? Umbro shorts. I'm gonna go with that's the schmacked.
It is. It is, but there is actually a bunch of there's a bunch of shit in Braveheart. There's actually a scene where he's riding the horse across the field, and for a moment you can see a car. An honorable mention here is also the for Gladiator, the speech scene where he's like, "Are you not entertained?" or whatever. I think it's that scene. But when they cut to him and he's got his arms open, like you can see an airplane in the sky. So
that's not an airplane. That's an ancient alien.
Oh, all right. Let's talk. There's also Gandalf with a watch. There's a bunch of things.
Yeah.
I got a link to 2 videos that I use for my research that I'll put in the show notes if anybody wants to see the kind of top 10 lists of them. They're pretty entertaining. It's funny. Every movie has something.
Yeah.
And you don't realize it until someone points it out, and then you can never unsee it.
I also like to think that every movie has something.
Oh, God damn it. Get on with your story.
Kevin, well...
Matthew. That's your real name?
It is my real name. You were just reading some facts. What were you reading them off of?
I was reading them off of my Apple computer.
Your laptop computer. Your Apple laptop computer.
I like the Apple.
Yeah.
I'm an Apple guy.
Yeah.
Once you're in their ecosystem, it all works so well.
I don't love their computers, but I've got an iPhone, so
Huh?
I like some of their stuff. I'm personally reading this off my Microsoft laptop. I use a computer. You use a computer. Everybody uses a computer.
Mm-hmm.
How did it get to be that everybody used a computer?
Oh, that's a great question.
It's a great question. You know what? There's a story behind that, friend.
Oh, of course there is.
This is a story about a company snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
That's like Fact Schmacks.
Yeah. It's a story about people making miscalculations.
Also, like Fact Schmacks. Are you sure we're not a computer? Is this some kind of meta joke?
And it's a story about people missing out on opportunities. Uh-huh.
Wow. It's getting spooky.
It's getting spooky. In the late 1960s, the Xerox Corporation had a problem. While their patents...
Was it a paper jam?
No, it was not a paper jam. That's a good one, though.
Thank you.
While their patents had kept them relatively free from competition, expiring patents meant that competition from Asian firms was kind of starting up.
Like compactition? God, I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
That was awful, right?
Do we need to start over?
You never do anyhow. So
No,
just keep
I don't.
Going.
These Asian firms were able to make copying machines cheaper than Xerox could. And Xerox is starting to feel the squeeze of that. And they're looking...
So they started copying.
That's right. They did copy.
Okay.
Yeah. So Xerox is looking down the line and they're trying to figure out what's our next business. Where's that going to come from? If this copying thing goes tits up, if we can't compete in this world anymore, where are we going to go to next? And so in order to figure that out, they founded a place called the Palo Alto Research Center, or PARC. And the job of PARC was to explore new technologies. Now, an interesting thing about PARC is it's in Palo Alto. The Xerox headquarters was in New York, so they're about 3,000 miles away from each other or 3,000 miles. I don't know.
Probably miles.
Probably miles, and that's in 1970. So they're
horse and buggy.
Yeah, right. It's not like today where they're video conferencing.
Sure.
Throughout the years, PARC has been actually at the forefront of developing a ton of technologies that we still use today, including Ethernet, laser printers. This is something you might know about, object-oriented programming, which is, from what I understand, what a lot of programming languages, to this day still use.
Right.
That was something that was developed at PARC. But they received a lot of criticism, Xerox did, because Xerox has really failed to monetize a lot of their best ideas. And this was very evident with a very specific project. It was the Xerox Alto project. Have you ever heard of what the Xerox Alto project is?
Never.
Well, friend,
I'm not as learned as you may think.
Stop me if any of this sounds familiar.
That was a beer, by the way.
This is from an ad, and just the background of the ad is an executive working in an office in front of a screen, and it's got this weird little thing beside it that you move around, and you can point at objects on the screen with it. They're calling it a mouse. Here's the text from the ad. This is an ad in 1970. I think this is late 70s. It's like maybe 78. You enter your office. get a cup of coffee, and a Xerox machine presents the morning's mail on screen. Push a button, and the words and images you see on screen appear on paper. Push another button, and the information will be sent to similar units around the corner or around the globe. They literally had invented the modern PC and the modern office.
What?
Literally. He was sitting in front of a computer as we would understand it, using a mouse, pointing at things, reading email, printing things off, sending email. I did have this in my notes. That was 1979. None of that stuff existed.
Well, they had the first internet message was like in the 60s, wasn't it?
Yes. So networking,
right?
Like telenetworking.
Those were computers that were like would take up this room.
Mm-hmm.
Punch cards.
Yeah.
And no user interface. Right?
This was a unit the size of a CRT television.
That
was doing all this stuff, specifically designed to be integrated into the office. The stuff that was going on, at Stanford University, that's education, defense, that's very
ARPANET.
Yeah, it's not in the. This is the taking that idea and trying to put it into the business world, right? But when these computer scientists, these developers, when they took these ideas 3,000 miles away and they went to the bigwigs down at Xerox and they're talking to them and showing them these ideas, these guys at Xerox, they just didn't get it. They didn't understand what a paradigm shift that this was, They looked at the mouse. They didn't understand it. They already had issues building, these copy machines at a competitive price. They're looking at these computers that nobody's ever tried to mass market before, thinking, how are we going to compete with that?
Sure.
You're talking about competing with IBM, at that point to get these things into offices. So they really lacked confidence in what they were designing. It is kind of an irony, right, that they have put this tremendous investment into this facility to come up with these brand new ideas, and they basically just threw out everything that wasn't directly copying related.
Yeah. So it seems like throwing, good money after bad on that, because you've set out all these smart people to come up with these great ideas, and then you just poo-poo them.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like when I come to you with show ideas. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the board at Xerox, though, they did come up with one idea of how to use this technology, because they were looking at what else was going on in the computer world. And there was this little upstart company called Apple. And Apple had been designing these little Apple II computers, and they were actually managing to sell them to people. So Xerox thought, and Apple was about to go public too, Xerox thought, what if we share some of our technology with Apple and maybe get some Apple stock in return? Steve Jobs at Apple had been hearing about the stuff that was going on at Park. So he was very...
Apple's in Palo Alto also.
Yeah. Cupertino. Yeah.
Right. It's got to be close.
I think they're close.
I don't know.
I
maybe
imagine
if someone's listening in California, correct us.
Yeah, maybe they're like... California is a ginormous state. They could be very, very far away. So they made a deal with Apple that would let Steve Jobs and Apple access all the cool stuff they're working on in exchange for Apple stock. So Apple Computers, just to give a little bit of a background, was founded in the late 70s by 3 Activision employees, as we had discussed in a Fact Schmacks earlier, right? You got Steve Jobs, you got Steve Wozniak, and Ron Wayne.
Yeah. Ron Wayne doesn't have a great story.
No, Ron Wayne has maybe the second saddest story
in all of history.
In this story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ron Wayne left the company after 2 weeks, and he sold his share to Jobs and Woz for about $800 because he did not like working with Steve Jobs.
And that money now would have been like billions. Billions. I think I heard he lives in like a trailer park.
Oh,
which I mean, hey, if you live in a trailer park, that's cool. But if you could have had Apple stock from the ground floor,
right,
and you could have been,
yeah,
yeah,
I know. Wow. It's a terrible story. They released the Apple I computer, was the first product that Apple released. It was just a computer board. It had no keyboard, it had no monitor. You could basically just
it was like a hobbyist type thing.
Yeah. But they sold enough of them to start designing the Apple II, which was a full-ass computer. Apple is really the first company to get a real-ass computer into consumer hands where you didn't have to put it together, which is an amazing thing that they did. Their, kind of dream was to make computers cheap and efficient enough to get them into most homes, which at the time was just an unimaginable idea. So Steve Jobs eventually gets to go to Park, and he gets there and he's looking at this thing that they're demonstrating for him, which again is a computer with icons that you can drag around. You can look at spreadsheets. You can do all this stuff. And his jaw's on the floor. He can't believe what Xerox is leaving on the table here. And he knows that they're not going to use it. He knows he has it. It's really kind of an unbelievable thing that Xerox threw this away. I cannot stress enough how bananas this is. Steve Jobs could not believe it. He knew that in 10 years, this is how everything is going to look.
But that's like Steve Jobs was a visionary.
Yeah.
Say what you want about him. He was, by all accounts, an asshole.
A total tyrant.
But he was a visionary. And he did see, even you look at what, if I pull my phone out right now, you can do anything.
Yeah.
More than 10 years. So the iPhone came out in 2007. So prior to 2007, you remember our flip phones. So the novelty of just having a phone with you anywhere was enough.
Yeah.
The fact that you can do anything now.
Yeah.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Changed the world. Totally. Now there's TikTok.
Now there's, right? Look at us now.
Boy, what have we done with all this info?
Oh, from planking to TikTok. Straight line. So Apple starts, setting out to make a new computer called the Macintosh. They had already been working on, they had the Apple II, and they were working on a computer called the Lisa, but this Macintosh was going to be, the new thing. It was going to incorporate the first graphical user interface, or GUI, a GUI, similar to the one that Xerox had made. They had licensed all this technology from Xerox. They had it. They had seen enough that they could reverse engineer what they hadn't properly licensed. But Jobs knew that Apple computers would need software to compete in the market, especially if they're going up against like IBM. You need business software. Sure. So in order to kind of get existing business or just a company with a little bit of expertise on there, he brought on this third-party company to develop software for him, a little company called Microsoft.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Microsoft. So we're going to get into the history of Microsoft, but basically they brought in Microsoft to design.
Listen, I want to just comment that prior to this show, you were bitching about your computer and not being able to access the cloud or it not storing on your computer. And you said, I promise we will never do an episode on Microsoft.
Knowing full well that we were literally about to do it. Yes.
You deviant little bastard.
Yeah, that's me. So yeah, they had started off, but that's not how they started off, but that's where the relationship between Microsoft and Apple starts, if you can call it a relationship. At times it's a relationship, at times it's not,
Yeah.
Let's talk about Microsoft and Bill Gates. Setting aside, kind of the current climate around Bill Gates, maybe people he has been seen with or was choosing to hang around with. I'm going to leave.
Oh, no, let's talk about it because I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about Epstein?
Yeah.
Definitely did not kill himself.
Yeah, definitely. Totally. Yeah. So leaving aside any of that stuff, we're just talking about the business stuff.
Sure.
Microsoft is founded by Paul Allen and Bill Gates in 1975. They're childhood friends. Gates had decided that the computer world was going to pass them by if they finished their college programs, so they dropped out of Harvard to form their company. They were pretty confident that this was going to be a big thing. I think Bill Gates, his parents were like bank executives, so it's not like he comes from, poverty or anything. He was messing around with computers when he's 13. So he had a leg up on most people. A few years after they formed the company, their buddy from Harvard, Steve Ballmer, he joins as their kind of business guy, because that's Ballmer's deal. Early Microsoft products were all pretty basic, in that their first product was a BASIC interpreter, the computer language BASIC. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was workshopping that joke all morning.
Very basic joke.
Very basic joke.
Needed interpretation, so it's kind of perfect.
I am a basic bitch.
Basic. Oh my God, Becky.
In 1980, Microsoft made a deal with IBM to supply IBM computers with an operating system. The operating system was DOS.
Oh, I remember DOS.
Right, Microsoft Disk Operating System. The deal that Bill Gates made with IBM left Microsoft in ownership of DOS still. They didn't sell the operating system to IBM. They licensed it.
Yeah.
And their contract allowed them to license it to other companies too. That made Microsoft and Bill Gates right there very, very rich. That deal has been said to be one of the best business deals in history.
For sure.
For how...
Because IBM was the computer.
Yeah.
The original computer was like the IBM, the International Business Machines.
Yeah.
Which in one of our fact schmacks, we talked about how old that company was, and it goes way back. I mean, it goes to almost turn of the 19th century, I think.
Yeah.
Early 1900s, either way.
Mm-hmm.
Very old company. And I remember, God, even when I was younger, like IBM was the best computer you could get.
Yeah.
It was IBM. Oh, you got an IBM? Wow, your parents must be rich.
I remember we weren't rich, but I remember my parents, the first computer we got was an IBM PS2, which had Windows 3.1 on it. And it was, I didn't even know what it was. Like my parents were saying, oh, we're going to get a Windows computer. And I didn't understand what the concept was. So I was like, what do you mean? Like, explain what Windows is supposed to mean to me as a 10-year-old child.
Do you remember as a kid going to the local mall here? And they had a computer store in where Sam the Record Man was for forever.
No.
They had a
I remember the arcade that was there, that was in the food court, but not
I remember that. It was close to that.
Yeah.
So they used to have this computer thing, and there would be like these really aggressive salesmen who like, oh, you could buy that, but it'll be obsolete in 2 weeks. Like, listen, I'm playing top end games on my computer, which I guess have upgraded, but like, there's parts of my computer that are, 4 or 5 years old. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's actually a thing where it's the growth of everything was like so insane at the beginning that there was like a very rapid growth in everything. And it is sort of starting to plateau where like you're not going to see.
We're starting to maybe see the end of Moore's Law.
What's Moore's Law?
Moore's Law is, I can't remember the exact law. I would have to look it up, but it's basically like there's a linear relationship between time and how much processors improve. It's like,
like it can only go so far.
It can only go so
some
far.
Kind of new technology.
Yeah. So is that going to be quantum computers or
yeah.
From my understanding, quantum computers are very good at certain types of tasks, but not necessarily as good at other types of tasks. So
they'll come up with something.
They'll come up with something, some hybrid model, or who knows. There is a really sad story associated with this licensing deal with IBM, though, and it's regarding a guy named Gary Kindle. Because the way the story goes, the longer version of the way the story goes.
Hold up.
What?
I feel like we have an inconsistency here I need to address.
Okay.
We talked about Xerox.
Yeah.
Showing Bill Gates or
Steve Jobs
the computer.
Yeah.
And we talk about Bill Gates joining Apple, We didn't really talk about why he all of a sudden had DOS separate from Apple.
No, so he's a third-party developer. Microsoft was a third-party developer for Apple.
Oh, so they were still Microsoft.
They're still Microsoft
licensing to Apple.
Yeah, they're just going to they're just going to port some of their business software for Apple OS.
Understood.
Yeah. So in the meantime, at the same time, they're doing business with IBM.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And actually, they had started doing business with IBM way sooner. There's a very, very sad story involved in the DOS thing, the DOS fiasco.
Okay.
And it goes like this. There's a guy named Gary Kindle. Actually, it goes like this. We're going to park Gary Kindle there because that's not how it starts. When IBM first approaches Microsoft about getting a operating system, what they're looking for is an operating system for this new computer they're going to be rolling out to compete with Apple IIs. The first time they've really done a personal computer. They show up on Microsoft's doorstep because Microsoft have made this basic interpreter. For some reason, they thought that he could get them an operating system. They show up on his doorstep. And before they even talk to him, they say, you got to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And Bill Gates is like, well, okay, sure. He signs it. No problem. And then they say, okay, now that you've signed that, we can talk to you about, we're going to be rolling out this computer. We're looking for an operating system for it. We think you're the person who can get it for us. And Bill Gates said, oof, we don't have something like that. But I do know a guy who does. It's this guy named Gary Kindle. So he's just down the road. Why don't you just go down there and see him instead? Which is like, that's an incredible solid for him to do.
Sure.
Right? And IBM's like, oh, cool. Yep. All right. We'll go see him. Because he had developed this thing called CPM, which is Control Program / Monitor, basically a precursor to DOS. Sure. They go down the road. Now, while they're on their way, Gates tries to call this guy to give him a heads up, but he signed a non-disclosure agreement. He can't tell him why they're coming or even who they are. So all he says is, hey, man, there's some people coming to see you. They're important people. Treat them well. Trust me. This guy was going to go out flying. So he's like, well, I'll let my wife, who's my business partner, I'll let her take this meeting. I don't know who these people are. I don't know. Maybe it's worth my time. Maybe it isn't. He goes out flying. They show up and they're dealing with the wife. The wife doesn't want to sign an NDA to start the conversation. So she tries to get her lawyer involved to like go over it. IBM's just like, screw this. And they leave. Ouch.
So he could have been the Bill Gates.
He literally could have been Bill Gates. They wound up coming back to Bill Gates' doorstep. And at that point, he's like, well,
I gave you a chance.
I threw you the bone once, right?
Sure.
So and I'm sure he probably went home that night, after that and thought, fuck, I should have just said I can do it and figured something out. So when they came knocking again, he's like, yeah, sure. You know what? I figured it out. I can do it. He went and bought basically a clone of that guy's operating system for $75,000, repackaged it as Microsoft DOS, and made the best business deal in history.
Oh.
That is one of the more painful stories of missing out on something I've ever heard in my life. Very sadly for this guy, like his marriage did not survive that.
Dude, how could it?
Yeah.
How could it?
And he wound up getting beaten to death in a biker bar.
Are you kidding?
I'm not even kidding.
Oh my. How, what's that story? Why was he there?
I didn't look up. Well, I mean, why was he there? Because I'm sure things had not been going well for him.
So you think he just turned to the bottle?
Yeah, I think he couldn't deal with it. I know that he couldn't deal with being that close. And
dude, I used to when I would buy the lottery tickets, I'd play the same numbers.
Yeah.
And one time I got like 6 numbers. I think I got 4 out of 6 of them. And I realized that I only won like $500, and I was like, fuck that. I should have got like at least 70 grand.
So you consider that your missing out story?
No. I'm done with that. But then I always think like, I'm always scared to look the numbers up now
to see if anyone's.
What if they won? What if they won last week and I could have won like 75 mil? That's
how they get you.
But I think if you knew that you'd thrown the winning lottery ticket out, or you had snoozed on the best deal of your entire life.
I once found out I missed out on like a $500 radio giveaway, and people tell me later like, oh, they were saying your name on the radio and you didn't call in. And like at the time, man, $500 would have made a big difference in my life. So that was,
I get really upset if I find out like after I left the party, they ordered pizza. I'm like, for fuck's sakes, why did I leave? I can only imagine how bad I'd feel. Like if I leave tonight and you guys get pizza, I'm going to be super butthurt about it.
Yeah.
Right. So there is that. So that's your story.
No.
No. Oh, we're not done.
Oh God, no. That's just like
okay.
that's a sad version along the way. I'm sure you're wondering what happened with Microsoft and Apple and Xerox.
Well, I have an idea. I have an idea.
Let's go through the rest.
Okay.
So, like I said, Microsoft had been brought in to fill in the gaps in the Apple software catalog, especially with their business software. They gave Microsoft the full source code to the Macintosh computer, which, you know, a lot of that was like a roadmap to how to implement and create a mouse-based GUI.
Okay.
Or GUI. I should say GUI because we've already established that that's...
Yeah, I like to call it GUI.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? Now, Apple was paranoid that somebody was going to beat them to market, but they were pretty sure that they had the people they had shared information with, that they had them under control, because they had contracts. They had made Microsoft sign a contract stating that they would not release any mouse-based software on their own for 1 year after the Macintosh launched in the fall of 1983. Unfortunately for Apple, the contract didn't stipulate anything about what might happen if Apple missed that date, which they did by 2 years.
So Microsoft beat them.
Yep. Microsoft had, of course, been working on their own OS the whole time because they could see where the market was going too. They weren't idiots, right?
Yeah.
So they'd known, and they'd also known about the Xerox Alto, just like Jobs did. Like Xerox showed that thing to like 2,000 people in the tech community in the 70s. So it's not like it was a huge secret. Other people knew about it. Like there was, staff started leaving that project after they realized it wasn't really going anywhere. And like some of that staff went to Apple, some of that staff went to Microsoft. So it's not like they had no idea. It's just that Jobs had kind of worked out this deal with them. So in November of 1983, Bill Gates didn't release, but unveiled Windows 1.0 and MS Word, the first iteration of Microsoft Word, at Comdex, which was an industry trade show. And they did this like out in the open, but at the same time behind Apple's back, right? And Steve Jobs is furious. I mean, this guy had a legendary temper.
Sure.
He is furious. He summons Bill Gates to a meeting.
I gotta feel like there's a trap door in front of the desk.
Gates has the balls to show up alone, and he sat in a room full of Apple employees and Steve Jobs, while Steve Jobs just unloaded on him. Gates apparently just sat there, looked him in the eye, and just took it. At the end, famously, he says to Steve Jobs, I think it's more like we had this rich neighbor named Xerox who left the door open all the time. I broke into his house to steal the TV and found that you'd already stolen it.
Yeah.
And legally, Bill Gates was right. I mean, they were right in terms of, the product that the Windows didn't come out until November of 1985. The Macintosh computer didn't come out until 1985 either, but the contract had stipulated you can't release it until 1984. That was it, basically.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was, you can't sit around and wait. It's business, man.
It's business.
It's business.
Well, but that is, it is kind of, I was explaining this, I was telling the story to my wife who does practice law, and when I got to the part about, how they hadn't stipulated what would happen if the product got delayed, she was just like, oh, that's such a short little, it's such a small little detail that sunk them.
But I mean, that's the thing in business, you're not there to make friends. You're there to make money.
Yeah.
You're there to push your product. You're not going to sit on your product. You're not going to snooze on something you've invested time and money and research into.
Yeah.
Because, we agreed with these other guys and they're late. So now we're going to be that much later?
Right.
No,
We're going
to...
No.
Come
right.
on.
We're going to uphold our legal obligation.
He had it coming, and you know what? He turned out just fine. Turned out he did okay.
For sure. They couldn't do anything about that sort of breach contract. In 1988, Microsoft released Windows 2.0, which looked a lot more like the Mac OS GUI or GUI, Mac OS environment. Apple sued Microsoft for copyright infringement and breach of contract, but ultimately lost that suit in 1993. Now, here's the thing. That's like a suit that goes on for like 5 years, 4 or 5 years. I listened to a lot of interviews while I was doing research for this, and one of those interviews was the CEO at the time, the former CEO of Coke, who went to Apple, and I can't remember his name. I didn't write it down, but he kind of maybe had sort of admitted.
Tim Cook?
No, that's the new guy.
The new guy.
Yeah, no, this is
way back.
This is way back
when they ousted Jobs.
Yeah. He kind of hypothesized / admitted that maybe, from 1988 on, Apple wasn't trying as hard as they should have been because they kind of thought that maybe we're going to get a windfall from this Microsoft lawsuit. Like everything that Microsoft's doing, we'll just own anyways. That was wrong. That did not turn out to be the case.
I mean, they really upped their game. It's funny, like there's three major. Excuse me. God damn. There's like 3 operating systems, major operating systems.
Yeah.
So there's Microsoft, Apple, and Linux.
Android.
Yeah. Now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now I guess Android is an operating system.
Android's the number 1 operating system in the world if you want to go by that metric, or by if you're talking about
Chrome
just
ones, that's the Chrome.
Yeah, the Google operating system on every Samsung phone, on every
Yeah.
By market share, they're the
okay,
biggest.
now, yeah, sure. But I mean, for your typical computer, like I don't consider a Chromebook a computer. It's a Chromebook. It doesn't have a lot of the things you need that you.
Oh, sorry, I'm counting phones as computers.
No, I'm talking about strictly computers. A Chromebook I find to be.
Can we put a pin in this, because my last slide is basically since then. We're going to talk about what's happened since that.
Oh, okay.
So I feel like you're going to have a lot of the conversation I want to have before I want to have it.
Okay.
So could you just get out of my goddamn way?
God damn it. Will you just hurry the hell up?
So Steve Jobs, when the Macintosh computer comes out, it didn't do that well. Steve Jobs was forced out of Apple in 1985. It's like right after all this shit goes down, right? Apple gets absolutely demolished by Microsoft in the interim. It's just not even fun to watch. It's stop, he's already dead type stuff. Microsoft had more than 90% of the market share at one point, just like complete dominance. Apple was struggling super hard by 1996. The board decided to buy the company Next, which Jobs had founded and was the CEO. So they basically bought Jobs' company and reinstated him as CEO. Now,
best thing they could have done.
Yeah. Right. He gets back in there, and holy shit, did he ever turn things around. Important to note, though, one of the reasons that he was able to turn things around.
That's when he had the iMac was after Next, right?
Yeah. One of the reasons he was able to turn things around is because, in 1996, there was a little issue that Microsoft was going through with antitrust laws. And Microsoft looked over at Apple being 90 days away from bankruptcy, which they were at one point, and thought, boy, if they go under, that's actually pretty bad for us right now. That would be really inconvenient timing. So Microsoft basically gave Apple $150 million.
Oh, no way. I didn't know that.
In 96 or 97. It was in exchange for stock. I shouldn't say it was in exchange for stock. It was non-voting stock, and then it was converted to common shares and sold at a certain point. But yeah, so Microsoft propped up Apple at one point because it would have been worse for They probably would have been broken up as a monopoly if they hadn't done that. But at the same time, that allowed Steve Jobs and Apple to create products like the iMac and the MacBook, lines of computers, which have done pretty darn well since, right?
Sure.
Totally turned that company around. And then obviously Apple creates the smartphone, probably the biggest technological development of the past 20 years.
Huge.
So yeah, I'd say Steve Jobs landed on his feet.
Sure.
I kind of like that story because everybody gets what they want.
Except for the two dudes.
Except for those two dudes who really got royally screwed. But like between Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, they were both very successful by what the metrics that they had for themselves.
I love how Fact Schmacks tells a story about computers and still someone dies.
Yeah.
Classic Fact Schmack.
The little classic factory schmactory there.
Yeah, I feel like so can I talk now? Are you gonna rudely interrupt me? Because you have like one more page of notes?
No, but I do want to say purple dolphin.
God damn it. Oh fuck. Shut up. My turn.
Okay.
All right. I don't have much to say actually, but so I had a train of thought going earlier. You know, there's the three big OS systems, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And you have like Linux is open source free, which is cool. And it's great. A lot of website servers, stuff like that use it. I use it when I do my coding and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a really good environment for that, and it's free. And hey, man, where's mine? So for those of you not listening, or for those of you not here and just listening, our sound guy just brought Matt a beer.
Kevin is slowly dawning on Kevin why I said purple dolphin.
You had a code word?
I had a code word.
Purple dolphin. God damn you.
I worked things out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I had all
sneaky.
my angles covered.
Oh, that's dirty. So anyhow, as I was saying, now Apple is kind of like, you know, you can use it. Well, there's a lot of Linux software you can. Thanks, buddy.
Oh, just
what
the
a
best.
Guy.
Aren't Steam Decks Linux based? Unix based?
The Steam Deck? I don't know, but I do have a reservation on it.
I'm pretty sure they're Linux based because they're not Windows.
Yeah, maybe
you can sideload Windows on it.
The thing with Linux is Linux has what's called distributions, and there's like literally like thousands of distros, like different versions. There's like Red Hat, Ubuntu, you know, different things like that. That's the only two that
it's a lot like Android in that respect.
The top of my head. But
thank you, Adam, by the way.
Thanks, Adam. But yeah, so anyhow, Apple is one of those where you can use it. So one of the things that makes Linux kind of unique, like I use Ubuntu, which you can use. It almost looks like Windows. And there's a lot of ways you can use it very similar to Windows. It's kind of like in between Windows and Mac.
Yeah.
But the thing with Linux is they have terminal consoles. So you put in terminal commands. And I don't know what any of these commands are. I just know how to look them up and get what I need to do.
Sure, yeah.
But Apple has that. Like you can pull up a console in your Apple computer and use it like a Linux-based system, which you can't really do with Windows, but I kind of... Yeah, dude. I can pull up a console right now and I can put in console commands.
I'm just saying, what do you mean you can't do that with a Windows computer?
You can do... It's different. It doesn't have... Like, you can do the...
PowerShell.
It's different.
It's command prompt.
It's different, though.
It's not different.
It's different.
It's not different. You're full of shit.
Now, what do you prefer? You prefer Microsoft?
I don't like the way you put it that I prefer Microsoft because I'm not a I'm not a brand cheerleader.
I don't know.
I like Windows because I like it's ugly. It has poor design principles, but it's so functional.
Yeah.
Right? It does everything that I need it to do, and if there's an option that I want to look at or change, it's in there, and it's got a toggle switch somewhere, or it's got a registry entry that I can get at. I find, my wife had a Mac for a long time, and every time, maybe this is like the syndrome where you're only dealing with something because someone has a problem with it and you're trying to solve it. Sure. So all I ever dealt with was Mac problems. Okay. I did have a Mac laptop at one point myself, but again, I never really loved it. I don't like that there's no file explorer. Like
that's the one thing that gets me on these. But then on the other hand, I've always been able to find what I'm looking for. I've never not been able to find something.
See, I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Oh God. cue up the music. I have, like right now in front of me, I have an Apple. My gaming and stuff, Apple.
Whereas I have a banana.
I have an app. I have a Windows gaming rig. Because you want gaming on Windows.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have a laptop that I do any of the coding stuff that I work on with Linux.
Yeah.
And I'd have to say, for doing anything creative, I like my MacBook. I don't know what it is. The keyboard, it's more than just the OS.
Well, I think Steve Jobs would be very happy to hear that, because that was his whole thing, was that
it's a full package. It's software and the hardware integrated together.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a design philosophy
Yeah.
that applies just as much to the exterior package as it does to the OS. I love, things just being stapled together, and I like being able to see the cracks between them. That's just the kind of guy that I am. I like getting in there. I do have my earliest, I was thinking about this today, my earliest like PC versus Apple memory was going to a karate tournament when I was a kid.
You didn't win.
No.
I 100% know the outcome of that fight.
Let me tell you, they tried to get me to break a board. Do you think that happened?
You're very delicate.
But I remember being like 10 or 11 years old.
Wait, didn't you do karate in the last 3 years or 4 years?
No, that was like when I was like 23. I joined a karate class because I wanted to get into better shape, and like,
no, it was later than that. I remember it.
No,
I remember you talking about going to karate, and I would always laugh at how funny it would look with that white suit and that white body.
No, man, because I know what house I lived in, so that was at least 10 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Well, I knew you then, so
yeah,
I do remember it.
We've known each other for a long time. No, when I was a young kid, I was hitching a ride with another family, and they were a Big Mac family. And for some reason, it came out that my family,
I like Big Macs.
That my family had a Windows PC, and they start like grilling me about, oh, how could you have one of those Windows PCs? Like, I'm 11. Like, I'm making the fucking purchasing decisions in my house.
How could you have ever been lumped in just with a group of people nerdier than you? I don't understand how that would have happened.
Because I was catching a ride with other people in a karate class.
Yeah, now I'm kind of questioning. Maybe you did win that karate. No, you didn't. All right. So I'd say, just in talking about the Apple thing, when I was a kid, the school I went to was the first school to have computers in the area.
Yeah.
And they were Macs. And I remember those. And I used to go in there, and we would learn computers from I think I was in kindergarten.
Because you went to the Catholic schools.
Yeah.
They had the money.
All the money.
Yeah.
That's right.
I went to the public school. We had computers, but they were held together with tape.
I remember we had the most sophisticated, we had 3 classrooms that were converted into computer labs. There was a junior, a senior. And
one of them had a
shock
shock key. You just didn't hit the K key because it would shock you.
That's not true.
No, it's not true. I made that up.
No. All right, let's wrap this up.
Let's
just be done with this.
Let's be done with it.
I got a closing fact for you.
Of course you do. That's what you do.
I'm prepared.
Uh-huh.
Charles Darwin's personal pet tortoise didn't die until recently.
I did know that.
No, you don't. Well, for those of you who don't, so technically it wasn't his
wait,
pet.
I didn't know it had just died, but I did know that it was basically...
Are you going to let me give the goddamn fact? Just shut the hell up. We've listened to you for 45 minutes.
I'm sorry.
All right. Oh my God.
Sorry about the tortoise.
Anyhow, we brought this tortoise back when it was 5 years old.
Yeah, from Galapagos or something, right?
Will you shut up? Oh my God. This is why I like doing it virtually, because I can mute you. So technically it wasn't his pet. He brought it back at 5 years old, and it outlived Darwin by 124 years, ultimately surviving to 176 years old. Yeah.
That's real old.
Just passed away in 2006.
That's very sad.
All right, shut the hell up. We're done. Bye.
Good
Bye,
night.
everybody.
Thank you for listening to Fact Smacks.
We hope you enjoyed our show. If you want to hear more, be sure to check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/factschmacks.
Or you can check us out on Facebook or on YouTube or on twitter.com @FactSchmackedPod.
We also have a website, factschmacks.xyz, because we know you haven't had enough yet.
Sure.